Welcome, folks. Today we are going to be going over why I think listening to 99% of YouTubers and self help advice is a terrible idea and what is ultimately keeping you stuck. Now, this is through my own personal experience, so more so, I'm talking to my past self here because this is what I discovered that personally works for me and the mentality that I go about in my life now that has led to more results for the things that I am seeking to go after, like more money, better fitness, better relationships, emotional health, mental health, etc. So I remember whenever I started my self improvement journey would have been sometime around sometime in my senior year of college. I was like devouring this content. Like I was going so hard in it. I mean, I'm talking minimum 5 hours a day of watching this stuff. And I thought I was learning a lot. And I was from like a memorization textbook stance. But I wasn't actually learning because when it comes to learning, you really don't grasp something until you directly experience it. It's kind of like the first time that when you were young and, a family member died, like you didn't until you experienced it, you didn't really understand, when somebody really close to you passes, like how hard that can be on somebody. And I experienced that whenever I lost last year the closest thing to a brother that I ever had. And I kind of started to understand, how these things can pull somebody into, you know, not a good place. And so when it came to this content, like I just noticed after a few years, I guess you could say I was a little bit further, but I wasn't like where I expected I would be. I was expecting, boats and hose, being able to work from wherever I wanted, no debt, millions of dollars in the bank, right? I was expecting all that. And obviously that didn't happen. So, um, like I read all the books. I did all the morning routines. I tried all the journaling and biohacking. I did all this stuff. And after some time of really just looking within and seeing like, okay, bro, something's not going right. Like you've got to change something. So something that you're doing is not working. And I realized it wasn't what I was doing. It was actually what I wasn't doing. What I wasn't actively doing on a like I wasn't doing anything that actually pushed me one step further towards my goals every day. And to give you an example, like I was making like $1,000 a month for like a year and a half after college. I had a full college degree and I was getting my master's, yet for whatever reason in my mind, I was scared of going and getting a 9 to 5 job just because of what self-help YouTube had told me about how like, oh, don't sell out, get out of the rat race, blah blah blah. So I was more willing to work like 50, 60, 70 hours a week doing really shitty low paying jobs than just getting a, you know, 35, $40,000 a year, 8 to 5 that I really just kind of have to show up and do my stuff and I can leave and then I'm good with full benefits. Like I just didn't register because everything I was being told was how bad a 9 to 5 is and everything. And after I finally kind of said, fuck it, I'm doing this myself. Like I'm not gonna watch YouTube anymore. I'm gonna start like I'm dropping all the routines, I'm dropping everything, and I'm only focusing on what I need to do. Holy shit. All of a sudden opportunities start opening up. I get a job that finally pays, over $35,000 a year. And at the time I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. Like this is seriously so great. Like I felt loaded for the first time in my life because money is something that, I've struggled with my entire life and my family has. And so what I came to realize was I did start to incorporate some of those things that I had learned back into my current routine. And it dawned on me that it wasn't the actual thing itself that, helps people move forward, but the principle behind that thing. So, as an example, like journaling is not doesn't work for everybody. But the point of journaling is to clear your thoughts and take what's in your head, put it on paper so you can see it. It's a form of expression. And that expression is important. Like if you look at the term of the etymology of expression, it's to X, which is out, and impress, which is to squeeze. So you're squeezing out everything that's locked up inside in order to, just have something that you can reflect on and look at. My personal form of expression now is like, I love making t-shirt designs, and I like just making random stuff, putting it on a t-shirt, and then just putting it out. If people want it, they can have it. Great. If they don't, then so be it. But that's my own personal form of expression. And so starting to look at all of these principles, like all these routines, and look at them from a principle base helped clear up my days. So now all I have to do, like my small win or my form of like getting involved in my day, is manually brewing my coffee every morning. I always do either an AeroPress, a pour over, or French press, not a drip machine, because it actually gets me involved into my life, and it actually like lets me create something, a very good cup of coffee that even a lot of coffee shops suck at making. And so when you can start to look at how routines, like, they're supposed to support you. They're not supposed to be like a checklist. You're not supposed to do it to, nobody keeps score with self-improvement. And that's how I feel like a lot of us do, is we start to keep score of like, oh my God, I've read 10 books this month. Great. What have you learned? Oh shit, I can't even remember the first 5 that I read. Couldn't even tell you the summary. Like, we do all these things like thinking that it's that, context that's going to happen. It's that specific thing that's going to make it successful. But what's going to make us actually hit goals and what we want is, do those things support the actual actions that it takes to get to where you want to go? So in the case for me, like, I want to get out of all my student loan debt, college debt, all debt that I have, and I'm in a sales job. I've been fortunate enough to work my way up over the past few years to be, making over 6 figures at this point. And I have to do things on a day-to-day basis that support that. I don't do a drastic morning routine where I'm sunning my balls and, drinking water buffalo bone broth. I'm waking up, making my coffee, maybe going on like a short 10-minute walk just to get my mind kind of at ease, like get outside, fresh air. But then I'm straight to work, because anything else would just be a distraction, and I wouldn't have the time or the mental willpower to push through all of that thing, like to push through my entire day. So what I realized after, a bunch of years and like really reflecting, was that there are no universal routines or things that work. Everything is context dependent, meaning we all have our own experiences. So we have to learn things for ourselves. We have to experience and try things for ourselves, because not everything that works for one person is going to work for somebody else. I fucking hate getting up at any time before 6:30 a.m. I'm not going to be a part of the 4 a.m. club. And I'm not like, no. In fact, I operate better at about 10 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon. Like that's my peak time. And so I'm going to use routines to support my peak times of maximum like mental power. And so this is also reflected in like when you are so zoned in on what you think you have to do for your routines and what you think that you have to do to be successful, you close yourself off from so many opportunities. You close yourself off from so many ways that you could actually do things. And I'll give you an example. So I read this book like 5 times. It's called How Emotions Are Made by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. If you want to get a better grasp on your emotions and at least understand yourself and do things on like just you do things on a level where you kind of understand why you feel the way you feel, definitely recommend getting that book. But in that book, she talks about a study that these scientists ran on people identifying emotions. So they took a face, like a stone, like just a straight face and it was zoomed in so you could only see the face. And this face was a picture of some woman. And, at first you'd be like, she looks kind of worried about something. So, but it was kind of confusing. So it's like one of those things, like, is she worried or is she kind of like amused? Like, it was just one of those weird, like, you're not really sure. And so on the first test, they gave, options. They gave like 5 options to pick from for what emotion this lady was showing. And the participants had to pick what it was. So obviously they get the results back and it's like all fine and dandy, whatever. Well, the next time they took another group of participants, and instead of giving selections of emotions they could pick, they left it open. You could free write any emotion. And rather than just having the 5 options, when people wrote in what they thought the feeling was, they got responses. I want to say, don't quote me directly, but it was like over 25 different possible emotions that people thought it was. So what I'm trying to say with this story, as opposed to, your own personal experiences, is that when you think that there are only a few ways to do things, you automatically are ruling out any other possibility that could work for you. The same way that, like, if you have just a select, 5 emotions to pick from of what somebody feels, like, you're probably missing out on a whole lot of other possibilities there. So if you can zoom out and just start to look at, the principles behind these routines and the things that why they actually are effective, you're going to set yourself up much better to be successful in the things that you want, because you're going to know exactly what you need and exactly what is going to work for you. All the advice that you're given is solely based off of one person and solely based off of their own experience, not anybody else's. And truth is, there are probably things that they do that they don't even realize that they do. And I'll give you an example. If you look at professional athletes, I was watching Quarterback on Netflix, and Patrick Mahomes was talking about how, like, he makes this crazy throw where he's falling down off to the side. And, he said, like, while it was going on, like, I don't know what it looked like. I don't even know how I did it. Like, if you were to try to tell him to do, he was like, oh, I was just falling and I threw it. He doesn't know how he did it. He just did it. It was reactive. It was instinctive. And that's because he's just done the reps of that thing so many times that it did not matter what routine he was doing. He just performed and did it. The same thing can be said for a lot of these YouTubers or people that are just great at making content. They can tell you what, you should do. That doesn't mean they even do it, because odds are the things that are actually making them successful are probably either A, really damn boring, just doing the same thing over and over again for years on end, or B, they don't even know. You should try to understand the principles, not the routines and the prescriptions to the problems that you're trying to solve. So, like, let's take another example. Reading, for instance. Like, you do not, I don't know how many times, you don't have to read. You never have to read. The whole point of reading is just learning. And you want to know how else you learn? By just experiencing life and then reflecting on that. Or listening to a podcast, or listening to an audiobook, or watching YouTube videos. Like, that you don't have to read. In fact, I would honestly say that, like, since I've slowed down on reading drastically and I only read things that I'm like, actually, yeah, I do want to read that. Like, I would say, like, probably dropped, if I were reading, 4 books a month, now I'm probably like 1 book every 3 or 4 months. Because, like, it was wasting my time. But I learn a lot from podcasts and YouTube, and honestly, just talking to people that are in other fields and doing I just try to talk to people and learn that way. And I think most people would probably be better off doing that, especially considering, like, people love to share what they know. And that's another connection, and another way to make your life better is just by having more opportunities to meet new people and do things that way. The principles of the things that you do lay the foundation of your actions. They lay the foundation of everything that you're trying to do. Those things are what massive architectural wonders are built off of. But if you don't understand the foundations, or you don't have the foundations, and you're just doing a bunch of routines for the sake of doing routines, things built on top of land with no foundation just become landfills. And you don't want to be a landfill of self-improvement, I would assume anyway. But that's all I have for today. I appreciate you watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, or you can follow me on Twitter at Drew Dowd. So I appreciate your time. Thanks.